Hi, everybody, and welcome to episode 49 of the iRock Knits podcast. Come on in for a hug. We need to hug on one another these days, right? Because we can't do so in person. My name is Corey Eichelberger, and I live in the southwest corner of the Twin Cities in a suburb that's pretty far out from downtown with my husband and my chocolate Labradoodle. I thought I should do a proper introduction this week. I don't always do that. It is July 6th today, and it is hot and sweltering out there. We had a water softener delivered this morning and installed. Ours was no longer working, and we have very hard water, and so we had to have that replaced, which meant that when I came home from my walk with the dog this morning, I could not take a shower because the water was turned off. And you guys didn't want to see that. Sweating, headband, drenched, panting like the dog. I've been really struggling with some foot pain and some what they kind of called plantar fasciitis, but now my physical therapist thinks it's more of an Achilles pull. It's in the attachment to my heel, and I tried to walk 2 days ago, and every step just, except me. Today I walked 2 miles. The steps hurt, but not as bad. So now I'm doing the every other day thing. The doctor said, keep walking. The chiropractor said, no up and down hills, which I have in my neighborhood, just flat. I've got orthotics and I'm going to physical therapy. But boy, I really need to get out there because I have been snacking since March. So it just, feels good to sweat a little too. So I hope all of you are able to, get out and take a walk if you can, or do whatever type of exercise you prefer. I probably need to do some yoga stretching on that foot and that heel. But I'm wearing a boot at night, and I have been for a month, and that thing is huge. Swing that thing over and kick your husband in the night. I mean, seriously, it's like a boot to keep your foot flexed the whole night. I've kind of gotten used to sleeping with it now, but it's always something with this body of mine. I put it through too many years of gymnastics on terrible equipment. All those years ago, from the time I was 8 until the time I was 21, I lived in a gym. And so everything now is breaking down and saying, when you treat your body roughly, it's going to be rough in your elder years. I wish I could tell athletes now that to listen to their body and don't push through. Today I'm wearing my Friendship Road sweater, the one I wore 42 times to go to book events in the fall. And I washed it and dried it in the dryer, and this yarn held up beautifully. Cascade Ultra Pima cotton, just can't say enough about it. It's the best. I have one more announcement to make. My father was back in the hospital. He is out and doing well, but he had a second heart attack. I think that's what you'd call it. He woke up with some chest pain, and because of modern technology, they had delivered a bunch of equipment to their home, and every morning at 9 a.m. he would plug in to this equipment and answer some questions from a nurse. And she asked him if he had had any chest pain in the past 24 hours, and he said yes. And she called him immediately and said, take a nitroglycerin. And so he did, and then they took another, and that didn't help. So then they went to the ER, and they gave him more, and that didn't help. So they took him back upstairs for another angiogram. And some of you who are medical folks might understand this better than I, but they placed another stent. The first time around, they placed 3. And I don't know if they were placed like this, or if they were placed like this, or 2 side by side, like I don't really know, in a vessel from his heart. But the 3 that they placed before were laying on top of another one. So when he would lay down or sit and recline, he was having shortness of breath and pain again. So they went in and bolstered that up. And that was Tuesday last, right? And he came home on Wednesday. If it was Wednesday, he came home on Thursday. My days are all messed up. But Like, that's amazing to me that they can go in through your wrist, up into your heart, put a thing in there, take it out, and then say, okay, you're good to go, bye. I mean, he is being monitored at home, but in the, in not too recent history, we would have been in the hospital for weeks with that. Not that he wants to do that. They are in a heart hospital in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. So, they are getting the best treatment. They don't live in a rural location where, a heart doctor might be lots of hours away. So anyway, and thank you all for your thoughts after the last podcast when I mentioned that. He was outside walking yesterday, and Mom said he went down and did 10 minutes on the treadmill in the basement last night. They watched Hamilton, and so let's talk about Hamilton, right? We were fortunate enough to see Hamilton on Broadway. Every year at spring break for 5 years, we would go to New York City. We lived out on the East Coast for 5 years, and that was a real treat for us to see theater. We really enjoyed seeing the sights in New York City and all the things there were to see and kind of the hubbub and bubba of that. So we had been lucky enough to go. We played the lottery for 2 years, where you put your name in the lottery in the morning and then you wait all day for them to pull your number. And they were pulling 10, I think, maybe 20, but 10 seats at a time each day, front row, kind of close down. But eventually we ended up paying, big bucks to go. We didn't sit together. We had single seats. And we were pretty close on the side, but seeing it on Disney Plus on Friday night, I stayed up and watched it, started it a second time. It is a part of history that I didn't know that much about, and I just loved it. Now, here's my tip for those of you who watched it and might have been like, boy, it was just different than I thought, because the entire thing is sung. There's very, very few spoken sentences. Everything is chanted. It's definitely a rap. And sometimes they move really quickly. So I opened the song lyrics to the Broadway show on my phone, and I just followed along. I would look down, especially when stuff got really fast and I couldn't quite catch what the words were. Now, I had seen it. I had heard much of the music before, but if you're brand new to Hamilton and you watched it and you did not follow the whole, premise of, why the eldest daughter couldn't marry him and why he went with the second daughter, and then why Burr was angry with him. Like, there's a lot of history going on in that, and sometimes in 2 sentences they're telling you very quickly. So you can subscribe to Disney Plus for $6.95 for 1 month, and then get all the Disney movies. We had to hook up our old Roku because our current internet system, which you all know is terrible, did not do their processing and didn't hook up. They were supposed to do a contract with that Disney Channel, and they didn't, but it is not on the Disney Channel. It's on Disney Plus, which is a streaming service for all the movies. So I called my parents, and they got theirs hooked up on their computer, and they have a pretty big screen. We gave them a pretty big screen for their computer couple years ago at Christmas. The kids all chipped in, and so they watched in the living room, and I sent my mom the lyrics on her phone, and she said, we're going to watch it again, and we're going to read more of the lyrics so we know. And I had explained to her kind of some of the key points of what you're seeing, but if nothing else, the King, he just is hilarious, and he's crazy that he does. I noticed if it's his second or his third song, he does not blink the entire song. He is looking funny, but he's got that kind of starey, crazy look from what they say was he had venereal disease. Can I say that? I think and he was just a little crazy. We're all learning so much about the toxicity of stuff that people back in the day had to deal with. I'll talk about that. That's the book for next week that I'm still finishing. Anyway, so highly recommend, but definitely with the caveat that you might want to read the lyrics first and kind of sing along or follow along that way. There are 47 songs in the musical, and maybe 2 or 3 spoken lines that go into songs. So it's a different experience if you have never done that before. Also, highly, highly recommend watching the dancers instead of watching the key characters, because the performances that they're doing alongside, around, and up high are incredible. I saw dancers up close when we watched it on Broadway, and it was amazing because we were off to the side, so there was this kind of corner of where there was a lot of dancing happening, and I don't know that I would have appreciated it as much. So anyway, welcome. Those are my 2 things, my dad and Hamilton and the water softener. This morning. But I have 2 incredible books for you this week. Incredible. Could not stop listening. Could not put them down. Doesn't mean everyone's going to like them. We all know that, right? But I read Necessary Lies by Diane Chamberlain. Some of you will be Diane Chamberlain fans from the past. She's written quite a few novels, and I recognized her name, but didn't recognize the title of the book. Gotta find my papers here. So I listened to it on Audible. It is 10 hours and 51 minutes. Let's round up to 11 hours. Here's what it says. Delivers a breakout book about a small southern town 50 years ago and the darkest and most hopeful places in the human heart. After losing her parents, 15-year-old Ivy Hart is left to care for her grandmother, older sister, and nephew as tenants on a small tobacco farm. As she struggles with her grandmother's aging, her sister's mental illness, and her own epilepsy, she realizes that they might need more than she can give. When Jane Forrester takes a position as Grace County's newest social worker, she doesn't realize just how much her help is needed. She quickly becomes emotionally invested in her clients' lives. The social worker in this book delves into a dark secret from our past and the whole process of eugenics, where we were sterilizing humans, individuals, who did not meet society's standards for being able to reproduce. People of color, people with epilepsy, people with any type of mental illness, and often without their knowledge. So in this book, they sterilize a young girl and they don't tell her. And they tell her that she's had her appendix out. It is fascinating. It's a story based in true situations, but the story moves you along. The story, not true, keeps you just wanting to know, how is the social worker going to work? Is she going to be able to respond? How is she going to save, her clients? How is this family that lives on this tobacco farm and the things that go on there? I was just riveted. You guys know that I love to learn. I even enjoy learning about bad things because then I'm more aware. And until 1974, this was still practiced in the Carolinas. 1974, we were still sterilizing people, often without their knowledge, or telling them they had to have this procedure done. Really, really good. Highly recommend. And, there are some lighthearted parts, some funny parts, so it's not depressing. It's not it's a downer, but just really well written. So well read. Characters' voices, loved that. And lots of feminism. This young woman who graduates from college gets married to a doctor and is told that she should not work, and she wants to work. So, all the things, ticked all the boxes for me. Then one of you recommended this to me, and I didn't think I wanted to read it. Number one, the picture threw me off on the cover, But this is The Gown, a novel of the royal wedding by Jennifer Robson. It's 11 and a half hours long. It came out in 2018. And this is the synopsis because it's quicker that way than me blathering on. London, 1947, besieged by the harshest winter in living memory, burdened by onerous shortages and rationing, the people of post-war Britain are enduring lives of quiet desperation despite their nation's recent victory. Among them are Anne Hughes and Miriam Dasson, embroiderers at the famed Mayhair fashion house of Norman Hartnell. They forge an unlikely friendship, but their nascent hopes for a brighter future are tested when they are chosen for a once-in-a-lifetime honor, taking part in the creation of Princess Elizabeth's wedding gown. So for some reason, the picture, when I saw it on my Audible, I thought it was Princess Diana and Charles walking down the aisle, just briefly. And for some reason, I just didn't think I wanted to read that. I just thought, oh, I don't know if I want to read about Princess Diana and the terrible things and how she was, treated and all that happened. But it has nothing to do with that. So I was glad I went out and read it, and I could not stop listening to this. There's some knitting in it. One of them is a knitter. And so several times that's mentioned. But the embroidery and the way they make the dress and how the royals are treated during this time. And then there are two stories of these two women who have things going on in their lives. And it's just excellent. It was so good. Another excellent narrator. So I always give my audiobooks reviews with in mind that it may not be the same if you're reading it, right? If you have an excellent narrator that can elevate the text, maybe that's part of the great experience I'm having, right? So take it with a grain of salt if you're a reader always, and I'm doing audiobooks. I think that these were both written really well, and they would stand up to the written page, but wow, I was so excited. Sometimes you forget what it's like to be in the midst of a really good book. When you read a couple of okay books, then you forget that energy that you get from, I'm just going to listen because I want to hear it. So 2 thumbs up on both those today. I have a recipe this week that I sent to my mom and dad. So my sister-in-law took supper over to my parents, and she used this recipe. And my mom called and she said, Jenny brought us supper and it was delicious, and she said it's your recipe, so we need the recipe. And I said, oh yeah, I probably did give it to Jenny at one time. So this is a recipe for no-peak beef tips. I would call it beef stroganoff, beef in gravy, something like that. Super simple, delicious. It comes from mommyskitchen.net. So for those of you that want to just go out and Google it, no peak beef tips would come up. There are 5 or 6 ingredients, super simple, 9x13 pan, 2 pounds of beef tenderloin tips, stew meat, chuck roast, or chuck eye, cubed, any, beef, but we prefer to buy better meat for this, so it gets super tender. A can of cream of mushroom soup, a packet of brown gravy mix, a packet of Lipton dry onion soup mix, a can or a package of fresh mushrooms, and a cup of ginger ale or soda, ginger ale soda, or like probably 7-Up would work, but the ginger is good in this. You just pour that over the pan, over the top of the meat, stir it up in a 3-cup measure or whatever, and then you put it in the oven for 3 hours at 300 degrees, and you don't peek. You never lift the lid, the tin foil or the cover that you have on your thing. Then you can serve it over rice or mashed potatoes or noodles. We like noodles. Occasionally, meat that we have purchased has been a little wet, more wet than others, and so sometimes the gravy is a little wet. So when I uncover it, I will put in, a tablespoon of cornstarch mixed in some cold water and stir it around that meat and thicken it up a little at the last minute, especially if I'm going to do it over the noodles, because you don't want that sauce to kind of run on your plate, whereas the rice and the mashed potatoes will kind of soak up that kind of sauce. But super easy. Meat, soup, gravy mix, onion soup mix, mushrooms, ginger ale. Delicious. That ginger ale breaks down that meat. Oh, I should have this for supper. It's so good and so easy. Here's a picture. That's not my picture. That's from the website. But that's what it looks like. We served this for Christmas dinner to my husband's, they're not his employees. What do you call it? Work partners. Is people that work for my husband come to our house for Christmas each year. We have a gathering. And every year it's always, what are we going to make? What are we going to make? And it's usually about 20 people, maybe a little more. But I made 3 or 4 pans of this one year. I just stacked them in the oven, and everybody just really, really liked it. You could also just make it with like bigger mushrooms, so that you could have a vegetarian version of this, and that would kind of break down those mushrooms a little bit. So, no peak beef tips. Send it to my mom and dad. I was surprised because I've made it a lot, so I kind of figured I'd probably gotten it from my mother or something, but my sister-in-law made it and they thought it was delicious. I have a couple of podcast recommendations this week, and I watched 2 gals, Frivolous and Frugal, and that's Dawn and Penny in Wisconsin and Ohio. And one of them is Frivolous and one of them is Frugal. And one of them was at ZK. I think it was Dawn. I think. Yeah. Oh gosh. When you just meet people in the first couple episodes, you mix their names up. Right? Like Mary Beth and Helen on Toad Hollow. It took me a while to get those ladies, which one was which, because they introduce themselves and then you go, oh, which one, the left or the right? So sorry about that, Dawn and Penny, but so they have a nice little podcast going. They have they've been podcasting for a year, I think, probably it's been a year now. So give that one a try, Frivolous and Frugal. And then the second one is The Quiet Knitter, and she is Sea Salt and Stone on, I think, Ravelry and Instagram. Her name is Vanessa, and she's in Ottawa, Canada. That would kind of be the opposite of this podcast, The Quiet Knitter. She's very gentle, very soft, and this is all over the place and happy and banging microphones and rustling papers, but her aesthetic is beautiful. I was looking at her. I always go back and watch the first one because that's when they usually introduce themselves more, tell you more about themselves. And then I skipped forward, and I don't know what she did, but I was just going forward, and she went from like 1,000, 2,000 views on her podcast to 16,000 on one of her podcasts. And I have to go watch that one because obviously something happened on that podcast that got her, tons of people that went over and watched it. I love when there's like a spike in a podcast like that, because that they talked about something of importance, or they showed a project or people were talking about it and it got some hubbub. So look at the one. You guys can go out and look and see what happened with that. But okay. I have a tip or a trick this week, and I am going to shout out an acquaintance, a friend of mine from my past. Her name is Susan Rainey. I've talked to her about her briefly on the podcast before. She lives in the northern Minneapolis area, and we were in a knitting group years ago together, before I moved to Virginia and then came back and don't live on the northwest side of the Twin Cities anymore. And she and her sister have had a blog for years, and it's called The Rainey Sisters. Their last name is Rainey, and they're both knitters. And one of them lives out in the DC area, because when I lived out in Virginia, Susan went out to a yarn shop out there to teach, and my daughter and I drove up and met her. I was really lonely at the time. We had moved out there, hadn't met a lot of people, and there was going to be a friendly face from home coming to the DC area, and so I drove up and we had lunch, and then she went back to teaching. But she posted on her Instagram this picture that I found so interesting, and I thought it would be a really good visual for all of you, and then come to find out she had written it up as a blog post. So I'm going to tell you a bit about it. But here is her mannequin. And here is her description of how she makes the front of her sweater longer than the back of her sweater. Because if you have your back shoulder seam here and your sweaters are the same length, front and back, 14 inches or 15 inches or 17 inches, whatever you make yours, your sweater's going to ride up, right? It's going to be off. And that's why we often do short rows across the back upper neck to lengthen the back of the sweater. I have talked about that before, but this is just a phenomenal visual. So oh shoot, do I have the date here? I don't have the date. So this is the sweater that Susan knit, which has got this beautiful cable detail down where she made the fronts and the backs of different lengths. So here is her seam here, and there is a whole talk in the blog post about making that seam and how interesting that was to make it, and how where your back shoulder seams hit and how much longer your front piece is going to need to be to make it even on the bottom. Isn't that a great visual? I mean, I've understood it for a long time because I've had to do short rows, but a lot of people don't understand why you need to put short rows in your sweaters and why they're there, how often you make them, how deep they are, all of that. So go take a look anyway. But the link will be in my Ravelry notes down below, and then also you can always contact me if you want the show notes sent to you from a previous podcast. There is an issue on Ravelry, and if you are unaware, you need to know that the new Ravelry platform has kind of blown up the Instagram knitters groups because people are legitimately having seizures and migraine headaches from the new site. And from website developers who know something, unlike me, who doesn't know, did not realize, that's a thing. And it's an accessibility that you need to program into your website. You need to take a look at and do testing once you have your page up. But there's a flickering. I read at one point that there were balloons floating up, but text going across it, and those two things made your eyes of people who have difficulty with that. And many of you will know that a person with epilepsy or migraines can be triggered by the strobe lights or going to a movie where things are black and white very quickly. You have to be careful about those things. And so when Ravelry uploaded their new site and didn't tell people it was coming, people were spending 5 and 10 minutes on it and getting a headache. And then some of those people were thinking that it was just them because they didn't know that other people were always also having the problem. So there is a view, a toggle that you can toggle back to it's underneath your picture in the right hand corner, and you click and there's a drop down menu at the very bottom. There's a little button that you turn off or on, and that will let you go back to the old version. But some of the old version isn't what it used to be. It also has an update. In order to completely revert back to an old version, they would have had to do a lot of work in their setting up of the new site. They would have had to go in with the thought process that they were going to, according to my husband, who's an IT guy who, doesn't do all web design. He said, but that takes a lot of knowledge on the forefront to know that you're going to let people revert back, because you're making changes in the basic structure of your website. And so they have not been able to revert back completely, which means that there are some people who cannot get access to the patterns that they want, that they own, that are in their library. I've had a couple of people reach out to me because they wanted to purchase a pattern, but getting on the site could cause them trouble, and they don't want to take the risk, and so then they had to figure out a different way to purchase a pattern. So my patterns have always been on Etsy and on Love Crafts, so you can always get my patterns from those sites. I do not sell my patterns on my website, because then you have to do your own tax and VAT for European sales, and it's a huge issue. And so I chose sites where that was already done for me, so I don't have to worry about that. So Etsy and Love Crafts and Ravelry all take care of that, right? They pay the VAT, and the taxes are all taken care of, and then you just pay them each month. They let you know. So, but there were a lot of designers who had never set that up. So there was kind of a mass like, oh my gosh, where can we go? How can we help out these people? And Ravelry hasn't gotten it fixed. And they haven't made a very good statement about their intention to get it fixed. Some people think that they're fixing it, and other people think that it's too much work that they think that Ravelry might think it's too much work for them to fix it, and they're not listening. And so this whole thing has been really frustrating and really hard to navigate. So I want to apologize for the role that I might play in that by only having people be able to go for the giveaway onto the Ravelry page, because you can't go on the Ravelry page. Always know that I am willing to figure out a way to make things accessible for you. I will gift you the pattern via an email. I will, whatever we need to do. If you have problems with what's going on with the site right now, I feel very badly for you, because I spend time on it every day. I'm always going over to check stuff and look at stuff. And now I'm writing this huge ebook, and my number one method of distribution for that would be Ravelry. So it's sad. It's hard to know. I know someone asked if I would be printing the ebook as a print copy. I may have to do that. Do a small run for people who want it in a hardcover form or softback form through Amber. I know they have a printing company. They do that work. I could certainly pay to have that done. So it's just been a real kerfuffle, really hard for a lot of people. Again, it just doesn't seem like we can get things kind of on a better place for everyone, right? Just everyone in a better place, on a higher, all, equal and fair. Just doesn't seem to be where we're at right now. So go take a look at the Rainey Sisters. They have their own blog. You can just Google it. Let's do the shawl and the sweater of the week this week. Okay? The shawl this week is Pebble Beach, and it is by Helen Stewart. And I knit a Oh, what is that little cowl that's hooked in the back? Oh, there were several versions out of this yarn as well, because I had so much left over. So I used Nooch Fiber Midtown Sock from Nitty City. I looked it up and typed it into my notes so that I would remember. So that's this beautiful orange. Maybe if I turn it around, you'll get a better view of what this looks like here. It's just all eyelets, the whole thing, pebbles for Pebble Beach. And it is a pattern that came out in May of 2014. I knit it in 2016. 3,250 people have knit it and put it up on Ravelry, which means more people have knit it than that. It's a $5 pattern, and she has a bundle that if you purchase 4 single patterns from her Ravelry store, the least expensive one will be free. A lot of designers do that. I have that at the top of every one of my patterns on Ravelry, that if you bundle a few together, we give you a discount because we make better sales that way. Right now is the slowest month of the year, June, July, and August for knitters in the United States. You know, people are busy, it's hot, they don't knit as much, so they don't buy as many patterns. And I've got a bunch of expenses coming up for my ebook, trying to get all those sample knitters paid and the yarn purchased and the prototypes knit. And so buying a bundle is a way that you can help a designer make a little bit of extra money. So the description for the Pebble Beach shawl is a light crescent-shaped accessory perfect for keeping off chilly sea breezes while at the beach. The shawl is knit with 1 or 2 skeins of luxury yarn in a different weight for each size and is the perfect travel and holiday knitting project. A simple yet effective lace pattern means this project can be packed alongside your craft magazines and chick lit beach reading. It drapes beautifully across the shoulders, and the picot bind-off gives a polished finish like the stones on Brighton Beach. I'm going to editorialize a little right here. I don't like the moniker chick lit. Just because we like to read some things that are not as deep as others does not mean that we can't read deeper things, and that having only chicks be able to read that literature is, to me, a little bit problematic. So let's just say some beach reading and not use that word, okay? You don't have to agree with me. It just has always rubbed me a little bit the wrong way that this is chick lit, as if it's lesser than. The author who wrote it didn't think it was lesser than. The person who's reading it doesn't think it's lesser than, right? We will throw that off and say, oh, it's just some chick lit. No, it's a book. You're reading a book, okay? Okay, I haven't done that in a while. Step off my soapbox. Some of you will be like, I've never been offended by that. Corey, why do you think about that? Sometimes you just do. Okay. There are 2 files when you purchase the Pebble Beach shawl pattern: the original shawlette and the shawl file, which contains all 3 sizes. So be sure that you know which one, you're starting on, so that you can get the size shawl you actually need. So this has got a nice little picot edge on it and just a lot of eyelets. It's a huge crescent. Here's the picture at the bottom that will show it a little better. See? Just a big swath of knitting with edges. And then I have it today just thrown on my mannequin, and it's got long enough wings that you just throw it around and they kind of hook. Remember we talked about if you have knitting going this way and then knitting going this way, it'll anchor on itself a little bit. That can be helpful, but you could certainly just put a button there, a magnet, and that would hang down right there. It'd be really cute actually to have that little ruffle. Okay, so very long and fun in this kind of orange and cream. Yeah, kind of a fun one today. Just a big giant shawl. I will as usual, take pictures and put them in right here. Then I keep talking, and then sometimes I think, whatever. You guys are used to me by now, or you wouldn't keep coming back. It is what it is. Okay, I have my tag still on the Shore cardigan. The sweaters and the shawls, and then people are, what's this one, what's this one? I constantly, so I have everything in my closet is tagged, and then when I wear it, I have to take the tag off and then put the tag back on when I put it back. I'm not teaching right now, so I can just lay the tags all in a jar, but I have gone out of the house with a tag on my knitting and worn it for a while before I realized that the tag was stuck in there. So of course you have, right? This is the Shore cardigan, probably one of my favorite classic standard cardigans. If you're looking for a cardigan, this is a great one. This is by Carrie Bostic Hogue. I heard that pronounced back in the day a number of times, and I think that's how you say her last name. I've heard it pronounced different ways. It's Hoge, but I think it's Carrie Bostic Hogue. Anyway, November of 2015. It's a quince pattern. It came out in the Swoon, Maine, and Matter publications. It's worsted weight. It's 19 stitches to 4 inches. The measurements go from a 32 3/4 to a 56 1/2. So it's not a huge upper bust measurement, but you could wear it open or make the button spans wider. There is an errata on this pattern in the yoke, and so you will, if you're just purchasing this pattern now, I'm sure it's been updated, but if you purchased it previously and you've never knit it, you will want to check on that. I just circled it on my sheet here. The thing that I really like about this pattern is that it's got a high-low hem, so it's higher in the front and lower in the back. It's got like a little shirt tail bottom, not a huge shirt tail, but a little, but you can see how it's going down already here, right? And only 288 people have made this, and it deserves way more than that. The thing I liked about this is that I had a lot of sweaters quantities with highly variegated yarns, and there's nothing going on this sweater, so it could stand up to that highly variegated yarn. However, the picture, the standard picture for this is just gray. So I will show it because it's just a beautiful, soft gray sweater. And it is seamless. It is knit in one piece. It does have short rows, and it's knit from the top down. This is my second iteration of this sweater because, and I have done this before, and I probably told you guys this story, but I knit this sweater, and it has raglan shaping. So you're setting up your neck, do your ribbing, and then you have 4 markers, 2 in the front, 2 in the back. And one of my markers fell off, and I was knitting at knitting group or out where I wasn't checking around, and I would knit and do my increases and knit plain and knit, and I was only increasing in 3 points instead of 4 points. So it was wrong. I mean, there was no fixing that until I figured out, like, I spread it out and I was like, wait a second, what, one of my markers, what happened? So I had 2 increases and 1 over here. Oh, hi. Are you coming to join me? Cody's saying hello today. Yeah, you can lay down by Mom. So I will turn this the best I can on this mannequin. Yeah, so there's a lot going on on this, but I really like it. I knit mine in Miss Babs Yowza. It's got a very nice low hem in the back. So I knit mine in Miss Babs Yowza in the Fireball colorway. I have a couple of other skeins of Miss Babs in this kind of highly variegated, where you don't get a ton of pooling, going on. Pooling would be if there were big sections of white everywhere, kind of and they kind of clump together. But this is dyed, extremely nicely so that it doesn't do that. I have these fun red buttons, glass buttons on it, and I mostly wear it open. But if you are the type of person who likes to have your hiney covered because you wear leggings or tights or something, then this one would swing down and cover your backside. Yeah, I really, really enjoyed knitting it. It was fairly quick. I knit this for a knit along for the Virginia Beach Yarn Getaway in 2018, I think. And I didn't get it finished because I cast on in January to have it done in February, and then I made the huge mistake and had to start over. So I couldn't wear it, or I was close, but I didn't have it done. So I think I restarted it and then said, whatever, I'll finish it later. So, the best laid plans. You think you're smart enough to keep 4 stitch markers on your knitting, but you're not. Yeah, so there you go, Pebble Beach is on your knitting, but you're not. Yeah, so there you go, Pebble Beach and the Shore cardigan. Okay, I've got some special notes or announcements this week. I still have 12 pins left in my Ravelry store. And this is the enamel pin. It's got the rocking chair with the basket of yarn. It says, I rock knits, colorful knits to brighten your life. I have 12 left in my Etsy store. I think with shipping, it comes to $10. Shipping costs more practically than the pin, but I ship those out. And then I also have some more I Rock Knits pens out there. So if you want 2 pens and a pin, you can get that until those are gone. So I wanted to mention that this week. Another announcement that I just heard the other day is that Blueprint, that had sold and was closing because they had been bought by NBC, and then NBC is not making any money right now. They're not making any television, and so things are really tight. Had to get rid of some of its assets, and so they closed down Blueprint. They just couldn't keep it open anymore. And Blueprint was Craftsy. So if you had classes on Craftsy, they had gone to Blueprint, and some people were really scared that all these classes that they bought that were supposed to be theirs forever were going to be gone. However, it took probably about 2 or 3 weeks, maybe even longer, before we heard that a company purchased Blueprint and all of your stuff will still be there. So it was purchased by Tennessee Marketing, and you're going to have all access to all of your classes that you had before. I don't know that if they will continue to produce new content. I think that probably is, something that would take some time to kind of work through, but at least that the classes that you had, that you purchased, and the contacts with those instructors is still out there. And then nobody saw that tomato and cheese sauce recipe that I asked about on the last podcast. That guy made it on his stories. No one saw it. Well, I'm going to make that recipe. I hope I got all the notes right because I wanted to go back and look and see. I'm pretty sure I did, but no one saw it. And then I have something sad to talk about. I feel like all of us know one another, and I know that that's not really the case, that most of you don't go out and read all the comments every week that are in the, on YouTube, the comments that I get and the responses that I give. But I have mentioned a friend of the podcast before, early on when I was first starting, and I have kept in touch with Kathy. And I just wanted to say that Kathy lost her husband a week ago. And this is Kathy Goodman, Kat Go on Instagram, and she lives in the DC area, and I'd asked if there were knitting groups in the DC area because she was looking for a knitting group. And he died a week ago, unexpectedly, very suddenly, and I was in touch. Kathy reached out to let me know. I saw it on Instagram. And yesterday, Kathy emailed me in the morning that her mother had had a heart attack and had days to live, and that she needed to get from her home to New Jersey and had never kenneled her dog and didn't have someone to leave her dog with, needed to get to New Jersey this morning. And then before I went to bed last night, Kathy's mother passed before Kathy got there. So if you could all just hold her in your thoughts for a moment, because life stinks for everybody, but then you have that happen, right? Your husband and your mother. So let's just hold her for a moment and think about her, because she's grieving and it's going to be a tough go. So I'm thinking of you, Kath. You're in my prayers. I sent you a hug and I know you got it. Keep in touch. Reach out to us if you need something, because we will be here for you. It's really hard, right? Okay, I have a giveaway to do today, and it is for the Desert Vista Die Work Minis. I had a bunch of people give wonderful responses to, this is in really crinkly paper. So there they are. They're the 12 days of Christmas. You know, the drummer's drumming and the Lord's leaping and the swan's swimming all the way down. And this was a kit that I purchased way back, and it has sparkle in it, and I didn't think that I would use the sparkle in any of my scrap blankets, and I didn't have a project in mind, and I've been doing a lot of hard thinking on some of my stash and what I really need to keep and what I love and I'm going to knit with right away and things that I'm not. And so I decided that this would be a giveaway. And so this giveaway goes to Nana Volvo on Ravelry, and that's Patty from California. So congratulations, Patty, Nana Volvo. I'm assuming that you're a grandma who drives a Volvo. And I will get these in the mail to you if you send me your first and last name and your address. And I will put them in the mail and you will have them. And I even have the little letter that came with it. So I will include that and one of the extra little ornaments. I don't ever, rarely, if ever, share products, things that I purchased with all of you. I don't want the podcast to be something where you see something and you can't buy it because it's not available, or you don't have the money for it. That stinks, right? That's hard to look at that stuff all the time. But I know that a lot of you love your animals. And I bought a bunch of stuff from a site. And I thought, I bet people don't know about this. So I'm going to share it today. And just so you have it in the back of your mind. This is from the Animal Rescue site. theanimalrescuesite.com. And with the purchase of the product, and every product, you automatically generate funding to provide food and care for rescued animals. And if you want to do more, you can visit daily to click on the purple button and generate additional funding. It's free. So here's the little tag. And they have the cutest stuff. Now, I own a dog, so I bought dog stuff. But there is other animal stuff. And most of the stuff that I bought that is dog stuff for me, not for my dog, for me, is also available in cat stuff. So I bought this shirt, whoops, with dogs all over it. It's like a baseball tee, very thin and comfortable in the summertime. I bought this one with the dog on it. I bought this one with the dog on it. And honest to Pete, this is like wearing pajamas. It is kind of like wearing pajamas. But look at the leggings to match. Aren't they cute? So I got the leggings. They're super stretchy. They're those small ones that look, they're very, very stretchy. I have worn this several times because it's so soft and comfortable. for just being around the house. And then I got this one that I have not worn yet. It still has the logo on it because it's a long sleeved kind of black one for fall. Isn't that cute? So I blew too much money because I couldn't decide. I had twice as much stuff in my cart. But I loved the fact that I was getting some cute stuff, and that it would go toward animal rescue funds. So that's a place that's near and dear to my heart. I just thought I would share that quickly. I have no, hand in that at all, any way, shape, or form. I just bought some stuff. The quality is quite good. Most of it's, I bought like thinner material things for summer, but I'm sure that there were sweatshirts and that kind of stuff out there too. It's a big site. I'm adding this in here, but at the moment when we thought that Blueprint would not have any more classes available and that some people might not even have access to their classes, this came in the mail, and I'm a member of TKGA, the National Knitting Guild Association, and they have correspondence courses. And so when I found out that there were no Blueprint classes, I thought, well, I better tell people that there are other places online to take classes besides just Craftsy. If you're sitting home right now and you're feeling, unproductive, or like you're just not motivated to knit and you don't have a lot of energy, that's so common. I think maybe the thing that you would want to do is take a class. So these are the classes that I'm just going to list a few. Basics, Professional Finishing Techniques, Shetland Lace Workshop, Swatch to Sweater, Understanding Gauge, Taming Tension. Now, these are fairly pricey. They run anywhere from $85 to $150. But, it's a system of classes where you're going to, get, and they also have a certification for knitting teachers. So you can take classes to learn how to be a knitting teacher. They have machine knitting correspondence classes, and they also have mini courses. Now, their mini courses are $25 each, and there are things like compensating for cable flare, decorative cast on and bind off techniques, decorative stitches, nups, stars, and cluster, Fair Isle flat, fitted garments, generating charts, jogless join. I mean, there's a whole list. So you can go to TKGA. TKGA is a membership opportunity where you get a magazine and you get a membership, and then you can get discounts on things. But you don't have to be a member to have access to some of their information. They have a not a member and want to get updates. You can click here and get on their mailing list and find out about things. So you don't have to buy into the whole, and you can be a designer that's a member at the TKGA, but they have all this class stuff that I thought I should mention to people who might be looking. I have a Corey story. I wasn't going to tell this because it was very embarrassing. But now that it happened a little while ago, it doesn't feel quite so bad. So I'm going to let you into my mind a little bit and what I did. I was at the grocery store and I wanted some lotion for my face, and that is not the place that you should buy lotion for your face. But I thought that they had this kind of organic aisle, and I was looking at it and I thought, oh gosh, I have a little jar. I usually use Rodan & Fields, and I have a Rodan & Fields consultant. Her name is Heather. If anyone's interested in Rodan & Fields product, I can put you in touch. That's a wonderful, wonderful product line. You buy a scrub and a astringent and your morning facial cleanser lotion and your evening one. It's just a great little regimen. They have it for anti-aging, for wrinkles, for breakouts. It's the two doctors who developed this stuff for the kids for their acne. Anyway, but for some reason I was thinking I wanted a lotion at the grocery store. Face, neck, right? As you get older, your neck, elbows, I don't know. So I bought this jar with a pump. I thought, oh, that would be great. After I wash my hands or whatever, I can just put it on. And it's 100% virgin coconut oil, daily hydration. It was way down on the bottom shelf, but it was in the organic thing, sulfate-free, color-safe, rehydrate, made with fair trade ingredients. So I brought it home, and I used it, and I put it on my face. I used it every day. See how much I used? I get ready in the morning without my glasses on, right? Because you take a shower, then you do your hair, you put a little makeup on, or not, whatever. And then you get ready, and then as you walk out of the bathroom, you put your glasses on. Look at what this says right here. Conditioner. Daily hydration conditioner. It didn't hurt a thing, because it's 100% virgin coconut oil. But it's for your hair. It's not for your skin. It's not for your face. Oh my. So I will move it to the shower, which is probably why it has the pump. I didn't see a shampoo next to it. There probably was one. It has coconut oil, coconut milk, and how do you say that? Acai, yeah, Senegal. Locks in moisture to support hair elasticity and suppleness. I have hair elasticity and suppleness on my cheeks and my forehead. My skin is so dry in the summer when I'm out, and I wash it a lot because I sweat and then I come in but I thought you guys might appreciate the fact that, sometimes you just are not paying close enough attention. And I think that has been true of a lot of us recently, that we are easily, highly distracted. We're not paying close enough attention to things. Probably a good thing that we're not all out on the road driving places all the time, everywhere, every day, because we're thinking about pandemics and masks, staying home and not seeing our loved ones, and yeah, conditioner for your face. Okay, now that you've had your laugh for today, we'll finish up with the hellos today. Hi to Yolanda Davis and Eileen Tomorrow, who watched the video on redlining and was as disgusted or upset as I was. That's where they drew lines around suburbs and cities nationwide. Oh, it's so interesting. It's so worth 45 minutes of your time to watch that documentary that I mentioned last time. Tensi Marcos Bodker, Debbie McKenzie, Janet Robertson, Suzanne Selby, Brandy Stoker, Denise Norber, Karen Busby, Jesse's Mom 12, Peggy Bork, MG Rogers, and Sandy McEwen. Stephanie Haberman, Kat Montgomery, Chris Osborne, Regina Seeger, HBWT40, Have Broom Will Travel, Katie Gendrew, Angela Jenkins, Linda Ull, Bonnie Glass, Mary B, I'm thinking of you. She lost her dog last week. Boy, pet, those loved ones. Oh, so hard. Been thinking about her a lot. Arlene Torres Ortolaza, Beraria, Randy Barnes, Mary Case, Patty Skaggs, Sue Wright, Kelly Mathern, Robin Gasser, Michelle Gross, Zoe Lace, Pat Howes, Penny Laughlin, Eleanor Lowry, Carol Morrison, Michelle Rudy, Elle Friedman, Danielle Brown, Timberly Witzel, who thinks that we could be #IRock stars, which is so clever, and Susan Bosworth, who thinks we could be My Rock Knits. I thought that was a cute hashtag too. Edina Cole, Kathy B, Josie Montero, Barb Christensen, Tiffany Scharf, who is also going to knit that crochet that hat. My yarn came and I have it sitting there, and I talked to Amber about what hook size I needed to use. We don't think the yarn looks as heavy as the pattern calls for, so I gotta do a little practicing on that. Glenda Bathgate, Joanne Goldenberg, Michelle M, Stitch and Amy, Tina Kircher, Melinda Zaccardi-Rousseau, Olivia Mankey, Delili 1, Dileli, Dill Eli, I want to get it right, Susan Singh, Lynn Langley, Deb Vandermolen, Heather Wilson, who thought last week it was 48 sheep sweaters because it was episode 48, and I thought, I bet a ton of people thought that I had 48 sheep sweaters on the podcast last week. So that made me laugh. Cheryl Lacemaker, Tina Kircher, Martha Meyer, Knit Takes Two Michelle, World Peas 00 Knits, Glenda Bathgate, Emma Bathgate. No, I typed that wrong. Sorry. Anyway, Emma, I make a mistake every week. She let me know that the sheep sweater was by Pinny Guri, Pinneguri, and I said Pinny Girl because my I looked like an L. So I hope that didn't mess anybody up, but that's the Angry Sheep Sweater last week by Pinny Guri. So thank you, Emma, because I wrote it and now I'm typing all my notes. Rachel Dobson, 2,459 of you watched last week, and I want to thank you all for that. And a number of you started using the iRock Knitters hashtag, which on Instagram was super fun to look at. So since last time, we have 27 posts. So let's be a group, right? Let's go out and like one another's. You know that these people obviously watch the podcast, and so they're watching with you, and you can see what they're knitting and what they're working on. So hashtag iRock Knitters already got started being used, so I guess we're going to stick with that for now. We can certainly add those other two if anyone wants to use those. I think iRock Stars and My Rock Knits is kind of clever. I think those were really fun. I really appreciate you all being here every week. I am going to get this uploaded and edited. I got to go through because I had a few coughing fits this week, a little bit of dry mouth, so I have to stop and start things a little bit more than I would like, but you know, that's kind of how it goes. You guys are used to me having some kind of abrupt edits with my dry mouth problem. I still using my spray. Somebody said that they really appreciated that I talked about that because they have dry mouth too, so I think that it's a little more common with some medications, and you know, then you kind of get the cough and the smacking of the lips, and you got to kind of keep yourself a little more hydrated. But I'm hoping to still get this up by tonight because it's much later. I have not had lunch, and it is 2:45. But I wanted to get it going as soon as the guys left. I hopped in the shower and I had all my stuff set up and ready to go. It just was the matter that I couldn't shower, and had to get that new water softener taken care of. So, and I locked myself in a room when they came in. They went straight to the basement, so we didn't have any real interaction. But you know, you don't want to have people coming into your home, but you got to have some stuff done. So that's what it's like these days. Thank you again all for your well wishes for my dad. He's doing great. I call them pretty much every day to check in and see how they're doing, but I hope all of you are doing well, you and yours, your families, your relatives, your friends around the world. This is a worldwide pandemic. It isn't like anyone can go somewhere and escape from it. And I see numbers rising here in the U.S., in many states, and it's really scary. I'm going to end today with, don't complain with your mouth full, right? I often will complain, but my problems are nothing in relation to other people's problems. And let's do the little sign off. No green bananas. Waddle on. Keep it colorful. And I got the sign up. Keep your fork. I love you all. Please go make a comment on my YouTube channel so that we can have a little contact, a little human communication with one another.